Nobody wanted to work docking Bay 7 anymore, not after what crawled out of the wreckage. Danny Reyes learned this when he stepped off the transport shuttle and found the entire night crew hiding behind blast doors. 20 mechanics, engineers, and cargo handlers, all pressed against the walls like frightened children. The smell of fierce sweat filled the corridor. "What happened?" Danny asked. A young woman with shaking hands pointed at the security screen. "It killed 4 guards, just tore them apart. Station command says we wait here until they figure out how to vent the bay." Danny looked at the screen. The footage showed a nightmare made flesh. 9 feet tall, 4 arms, black armored skin that seemed to drink the light. It moved through the security team like wind through grass, and when it finished, nothing remained but red stains on metal floors. But Danny noticed something else. The creature was hurt. One arm hung limp at its side. Dark fluid leaked from wounds across its body. And the way it moved now, slow, careful, favoring its left side, told him this was not a hunter on the prowl. This was something wounded and desperate. "The docking clamps," he said. "They fused in the crash." The young woman nodded. "Can't vent the bay until someone releases them manually." Danny understood now. The creature was trapped, and so was anyone who went in after it. He thought about his father, who died in a labor camp when Danny was 12. He thought about his mother, who lasted 3 more years before the work broke her body. He thought about the scars on his own back and the lesson they taught him. Sometimes the most dangerous things in the universe were just beings who had suffered too much. "Give me a plasma cutter," Danny said. "I'll release the clamps." Everyone stared at him like he had gone mad. "You'll die," the young woman whispered. "Maybe," Danny took the plasma cutter from the emergency kit. "But I've been dead before. It wasn't so bad." The maintenance tunnel was narrow and dark. Danny crawled through it with the cutter strapped to his back, listening to his own breathing echo off the metal walls. His heart pounded, but his hands stayed steady. 15 years of fixing broken things had taught him to stay calm when everything else fell apart. He emerged in Bay 7 through a floor grate. The emergency lights painted everything in shades of red and shadow. Twisted metal from the crashed ship lay scattered across the deck. The air was cold, life support failing, and it smelled like smoke and something else, something alive. Danny stood slowly, making no sudden movements. He could feel it watching him. Those thermal pits along its skull would see his body heat like a bright flame in the darkness. "I know you're there," he said quietly. "I'm not here to fight." Silence, then movement in the shadows. The creature emerged from behind a pile of wreckage, and Danny's breath caught in his throat. It was even bigger up close, even more terrifying. Its claws could cut through steel, and its eyes held an intelligence that most species refused to believe existed. But it did not attack. "You," the voice was broken, rasping like it had never been designed for speech. "Not soldier, what are you?" Danny swallowed hard. "I'm a mechanic, I fix things." The creature tilted its massive head. Blood dripped from its wounds and pooled on the floor. "Fix? You came to fix the clamps, to kill me." "That was the plan," Danny admitted, "but I changed my mind." "Why?" Danny looked at the creature, really looked, past the claws and teeth and nightmare body. He saw the old scars hidden beneath new wounds, burn marks in patterns too regular to be accidental, the bones pressing too sharp against skin, signs of starvation, signs of torture. He knew those signs. He wore some of them himself. "Because I've seen what you are," Danny said. "You're not a hunter, you're a runaway." The creature went very still. For a long moment, Danny thought he had made a fatal mistake. Then something changed in those alien eyes. The killing tension drained from its massive body, and what remained was something Danny understood perfectly. Exhaustion, pain, the desperate hope of a being who had stopped believing in hope. "I was property," the creature said. "Fighting pits, they made me kill for entertainment." Danny nodded slowly. "I was property too, different cage, same bars." Behind them, the sound of cutting torches began. Station security working through the main doors, maybe 10 minutes before they breached. The creature looked toward the sound, and Danny saw acceptance in its posture. It was preparing to die. It had escaped its cage only to find a bigger one. "Hey," Danny said, "what if I told you I could fix your ship instead of those clamps?" The creature turned back to him. Confusion flickered across. "It's alien features." Danny smiled grimly. "I'm a mechanic. Fixing things is what I do, and I'm very, very good at it." "Why would you help me?" Danny thought about his parents, about the guards who watched them die and did nothing, about all the people in the universe who saw suffering and looked away. "Because someone should," he said, "because no one ever did it for me." The cutting torches grew louder. Time was running out. The creature studied Danny for a long moment. Then it moved aside, revealing the broken engine compartment of its crashed ship. "Then fix," it said, "and I will make sure no one stops you." Danny walked toward the wreckage, plasma cutter in hand. Behind him, a 9-foot killing machine fell into step like a shadow. In 10 minutes, station security would breach the door and find an empty bay. They would never understand what happened. But Danny knew. Sometimes the most powerful thing in the universe wasn't a weapon or a warship. Sometimes it was just someone willing to help. The ship's engine compartment looked like someone had fed it through a grinder. Wires hung loose like torn veins. Metal plates buckled inward. The smell of burned circuits filled the cold air. Danny knelt beside the wreckage and studied the damage. His breath came out in small white clouds. Life support was dying, and they had maybe 20 minutes of good air left. "How bad?" the creature asked from behind him. "Bad." Danny pulled a panel free and looked deeper. "Power coupling is destroyed, navigation system is fried, hull integrity is questionable." "Can you fix it?" Danny wiped grease from his hands and considered the question. He had fixed a lot of broken things in his life. Machines that everyone else had given up on, ships that should have been scrap, but this was different. This was impossible. "No," he admitted, "not completely, but I can make it fly, once." The creature moved closer. In the red emergency light, Danny could see its wounds more clearly now. The cuts and burns he had noticed before, but also older damage, scars that formed patterns, letters in a language he did not recognize carved into the black armored skin. "They marked you," Danny said quietly. The creature looked down at itself. "Ownership brands, so everyone would know who I belonged to." Danny felt something cold settle in his stomach. Not fear. He had moved past fear 10 minutes ago. This was something else. Recognition, understanding. He pulled up his sleeve, showing the pale scar tissue on his forearm. Numbers, a serial code from a life he had tried to forget. "Labor camp," he said. 16 years ago, they marked us too." The creature stared at his arm for a long moment. Then it looked at Danny's face with an expression that might have been surprise. "You are small, weak. How did you survive?" Danny smiled without humor. "By being useful, by fixing things they needed fixed, by making myself too valuable to throw away." He turned back to the engine. "Same way you survived the pits, I'm guessing, by being too good at what you did." Silence fell between them. The cutting torches on the main door grew louder, closer. "My name," the creature said suddenly. "My true name, Kesseth. It means one who endures." Danny nodded. "I'm Danny. It doesn't mean anything special, just Danny." "Danny," Kesseth repeated, testing the sound. "You are strange, Danny. Other beings see me and feel only fear. You see me and feel something else." "I see someone who got hurt," Danny said simply. "Someone who fought back. Someone who ran when running was the only option left." He pulled a wire free and began stripping the insulation. "I see myself 20 years ago, scared and angry and alone." Kesseth sat down heavily. The movement was slow, careful. The wounds were draining strength fast. "I have killed many beings in the pits during my escape. Does that not frighten you?" Danny thought about it. "Did you want to kill them?" "No, I wanted to live." "Then no, it doesn't frighten me." Danny began connecting wires, his hands moving with practiced speed. The beings who should frighten us are the ones who enjoyed it, the ones who built the pits, the ones who watched and cheered. He paused. Those are the real monsters, not you. Something changed in Kesseth's posture. The tension that had lived in those massive shoulders since Danny first saw the creature began to ease. Just slightly, just enough. You speak truth, Kesseth said. I can taste it in your words, no deception, no hidden intent. Can your species do that? Detect lies? Pheromones, body chemistry, your kind leak information constantly. Most of it is fear when they face us. Kesseth tilted its head. But you smell like grease and exhaustion and something I do not have words for, something warm. Danny laughed softly. Probably the coffee I had 6 hours ago. It's still fighting its way through my system. A loud bang echoed through the bay. The cutting torches had breached the outer layer of the door. 5 minutes now, maybe less. Danny worked faster. His fingers flew across the machinery, making connections that should not have worked, creating pathways that violated 3 different engineering standards. But they would hold, long enough. There, he said finally. Power's routed through the backup systems. Navigation is dead, but I can slave it to manual control. You'll have to fly by instinct. I can do this. Kesseth rose slowly, painfully. But the bay doors are sealed. Even if the ship flies, we cannot escape. Danny grinned. It was not a nice grin. See that panel over there, the one with the yellow stripes? Kesseth looked. Yes. That controls the bay's emergency systems, including the explosive bolts on the doors. Danny pulled a small device from his pocket. And I happen to have a master override key. Mechanics have access to everything. Most people forget that. For the first time, something like surprise crossed Kesseth's alien features. You planned this before you even entered the bay. I planned for options, Danny said. Always plan for options, first thing my father taught me. The main door began to glow red, seconds now. Danny ran to the panel and inserted his key. The bay doors would blow outward in an explosive decompression. The ship would launch on the pressure wave alone, even with damaged engines. It was insane. It was desperate. It was going to work. Get in the ship, Danny said. I'll trigger the doors and follow. Kesseth paused at the entry hatch. Why are you helping me, Danny? Truly, what do you gain? Danny looked at the creature, at Kesseth, and felt the weight of all his years pressing down. The camps, the death, the endless struggle to survive in a galaxy that valued nothing but power. Nothing, he said. I gain nothing, that's the point. Kesseth stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, the massive creature bowed its head in a gesture Danny somehow understood as profound respect. Blood bond, Kesseth said. From this moment you are my responsibility. I will die before I let harm find you. Danny smiled. Let's try the version where nobody dies. He hit the trigger. The bay doors exploded outward into the vacuum of space. And the impossible began. 3 days in deep space taught Danny 2 things about Kesseth's species. First, they did not sleep the way humans did. They entered a kind of waking rest, eyes half closed but still aware of everything around them. Second, they healed fast, very fast. The wounds that should have killed any normal being were already closing. New tissue, dark and smooth, grew over the cuts and burns. By the second day, Kesseth could move all 4 arms again. By the third, the creature moved through the cramped ship like death itself, all power and controlled violence. Danny watched this recovery with something between amazement and worry. Your species, you're built for damage. We are built for survival. Kesseth was checking the ship's sensors, learning the systems with frightening speed. Our world is harsh. Everything there wants to kill. We evolved to endure what other species cannot. A death world, Danny said. I've heard stories. Stories do not capture truth. Kesseth turned those ancient eyes toward Danny. Morrow 4 has gravity twice your standard, atmosphere that burns the lungs of the unprepared, predators that make me look gentle. A pause. And yet the collective found us, captured us, put us in cages and made us fight for the entertainment of soft species who feared us. Danny understood now why the Vrethak were so dangerous. They had evolved in hell itself. Compared to their home, the fighting pits must have seemed almost easy. "How many of your people are still captured?" he asked. Keseth was quiet for a long moment. 237, held in a facility 3 systems from here. I was trying to reach them when my ship was damaged, when I crashed on the station. "You were going to free them, alone." "I had no other choice." Keseth's voice carried weight that pressed on Danny's chest. "They are my clutchkin, my family in your terms. I cannot leave them to die in cages." Danny stared at the star map displayed on the ship's cracked screen. 3 systems away, through collective space, to a prison designed to hold the most dangerous species in the galaxy. He should say no. He should find the nearest neutral port and disappear. He had already risked everything once. Asking for more would be insane. "Tell me about the facility," Danny said. Keseth went still. "You would help even knowing what waits." "I'm asking questions," Danny said. "That's not the same as agreeing, but I'm asking." Keseth moved to sit across from Danny, and for a moment the small human felt the full weight of being this close to an apex predator. Then the feeling passed, replaced by something stranger: trust. "The facility was once a mining station," Keseth explained. "Deep asteroid, rich in rare metals. When the mines dried up, the collective converted it to a holding center. My people are kept in the lower levels, in cells designed to contain us. Security. Heavy, automated defenses. Guard stations at every level. The cells themselves use energy barriers that even Vrethak claws cannot break." Danny's mind was already working. Mining station. Converted facility. That meant old systems, old infrastructure. Things that had been patched and modified rather than built fresh. Things with weaknesses that someone who understood machinery might exploit. "What about power?" he asked. "How do they run the energy barriers?" "Central reactor, lower levels near the cells." Danny smiled slowly. "So the power source for the barriers is in the same area as the prisoners." Keseth blinked. "Yes, why does this matter?" "Because that's stupid design," Danny said. "You never put your power source where your prisoners can reach it if something goes wrong. It means they built this system in layers over time without thinking about the big picture." He leaned forward. "And that means there are cracks, gaps in the security, places where the old systems don't talk to the new ones properly. You see this, just from what I have told you." "I see machines," Danny said. "All machines are the same underneath. They have logic, they have flow, and they have breaking points." He tapped the star map. "The question is whether we can find people crazy enough to help us get inside." Keseth studied Danny with an expression the human could not read. "There is a place, a station where outcasts gather, criminals, exiles, those who have reason to hate the collective. If allies exist, they will be there." "Dust Harbor," Danny said, recognizing the description. "I've done work there, fixed ships for people who didn't ask questions about where the ships came from." "You know this place?" Danny laughed quietly. "Half the mechanics in this sector have passed through Dust Harbor at some point. It's where you go when everywhere else kicks you out." He checked the fuel readings. They were low, but enough. Barely. "Can this ship make it there?" Keseth ran calculations on the damaged navigation system. "Yes, if we do not encounter patrols." "Then we go," Danny began plotting the course. "We find allies, we make a plan, and we free your people." "Danny," Keseth's voice was strange, soft in a way that should not have been possible from something so deadly. "Why do you do this? You owe me nothing, you owe my people nothing. You could walk away." Danny thought about the question, really thought about it. He could give a dozen answers, talk about justice or mercy or the simple fact that slavery was wrong. But those were not the real reasons. "When I was in the camps," he said slowly, "there was a woman, not my mother, she died early. This woman was nobody special, just another prisoner. But every night she would share her food with the children, even when she was starving, even when it might have killed her." He paused, remembering. "One day I asked her why. She said something I never forgot. She said that when the universe takes everything from you, the only power you have left is the choice to be kind. That kindness is the one thing they can never steal. Danny looked at Keseth. She died a week later, worked to death like everyone else, but I remember her choice, and I think about what kind of person I want to be when everything else is gone. Keseth was silent for a long time. Then the creature rose and moved to the pilot's seat with something almost like reverence. "Course to Dust Harbor," Keseth said. "I will fly, you should rest." Danny nodded and closed his eyes. Behind them, the stars wheeled slowly in the endless dark. Ahead, the impossible waited. Dust Harbor smelled like engine grease, recycled air, and desperation. The station was built into a hollowed asteroid, its corridors carved from raw stone and patched with metal plates from 100 different ships. Lights flickered, pipes leaked. Nothing worked quite right. Danny felt immediately at home. "Stay close," he told Keseth as they moved through the crowded passages. "And try not to kill anyone unless they really deserve it." Keseth made a sound that might have been amusement. "I will attempt restraint." Every eye in the station tracked them as they passed. A human walking with a Vrethak was not something people saw often, or ever. Hands moved toward weapons. Bodies shifted to clear paths. The crowd parted like water around a stone. "The mender," someone whispered. "That's Danny Reyes, the one who fixes anything." "Yeah, but what's that thing with him?" "Don't know, don't want to find out." Danny led Keseth to a bar carved into the asteroid's heart. The sign above the door was written in 6 languages, but the message was the same in all of them. No laws here. He pushed through the entrance and scanned the room. He found what he was looking for in the corner. A human man with gray hair and mechanical eyes sat alone, nursing a drink that glowed faintly green. Ollie Brennan, former military pilot, current drunk and exile. Danny walked over and sat down across from him. Keseth loomed behind like a shadow made solid. Ollie looked up slowly. His mechanical eyes whirred as they focused. "Danny Reyes thought you were dead." "Not yet," Danny leaned forward. "I need a pilot, someone who can fly through collective space without getting caught." Ollie laughed. It was not a happy sound. "And why would I help you do something that stupid?" "Because you owe me." Danny's voice was calm but firm. 2 years ago, your ship was dying, core failure. Everyone else said it was scrap. I spent 3 days without sleep putting it back together. You said you'd repay that debt someday. I was hoping someday wouldn't come. Ollie glanced at Keseth and quickly looked away. "What exactly are you planning?" "Prison break," Danny said simply. "Collective facility, 200 Vrethak captives." Ollie stared at him for a long moment. Then he finished his drink in one swallow. "You're insane." "Probably, you in." Ollie was quiet. His mechanical eyes flickered through colors Danny did not understand. Finally, the old pilot sighed. "I always knew you'd get me killed. Fine, I'm in. But we need more than a pilot and a mechanic to hit a collective prison." "Agreed." Keseth spoke for the first time, and Ollie flinched at the sound. "I have already sent word to my kind. 2 more Vrethak will join us. Young warriors who escaped the same facility months ago." 3 Vrethak, a human pilot, and a mechanic. Ollie shook his head. "Against a fully armed prison station, we need intel, layouts, guard rotations, security codes." A new voice cut in. "I can provide those." Danny turned. Standing at the edge of their table was something small. Insectoid. Multiple limbs folded neatly against a body covered in hard shell plates. 2 large eyes reflected the bar's dim light like black mirrors. "My name is Siak," the creature said. "I was a systems administrator at the facility you speak of, until I refused to continue my work and fled." Ollie's hand moved toward his weapon. "A collective defector? How do we know this isn't a trap?" "You do not know," Siak admitted. "But I can tell you this, I watched them torture beings for sport. I watched them break minds and bodies for entertainment. I processed the death certificates when prisoners became too damaged to fight." The small creature's voice was flat, emotionless. "I will see that place burn or I will die trying. These are the only options that interest me." Danny studied the insectoid carefully. He had learned to read people over the years. to sense truth from lies, and what he sensed from Sick was something familiar. The cold determination of someone who had seen too much and could no longer look away. "You're in," Danny said. Ollie groaned. "You're trusting it just like that." "Trust takes time," Danny agreed. "But we don't have time, so we work with what we have." He looked around the table. "Here's what I know. The facility runs on converted mining infrastructure, old systems mixed with new. There will be gaps in the security where the pieces don't fit together properly." Siak tilted its head. "This is correct. The barrier systems for the cells run on separate power from the main station, a weakness I noted but was forbidden to report. So if we cut power to the barriers, 200 Vrethak wake up very angry," Keseth finished, "and the guards will have nowhere to hide." Ollie was pale now, but something had sparked in his mechanical eyes, the old fire of a pilot who once flew through impossible odds. "We'd need a distraction, something to draw security away from the cell blocks while we cut the power." "I can arrange that," Danny said. "The collective puts out maintenance requests to independent contractors. I'm registered as a repair specialist. If I answer a call at the facility, they'll let me in without question. And once inside, I find the power systems, I do what I do best." Danny smiled grimly. "I break things." The plan took shape over the next 2 hours. Siak provided layouts and codes. Ollie calculated flight paths through patrol gaps. And when 2 more Vrethak arrived, smaller than Keseth but just as deadly, the crew was complete. It was desperate, it was probably suicide, but Danny had stopped caring about the odds years ago. Late that night, he stood alone in the hangar bay, looking at the battered ship that would carry them to war. Keseth approached silently, something that should have been impossible for a creature that size. "You are afraid," Keseth said. It was not a question. "Terrified," Danny admitted. "But fear doesn't change what's right, it just makes it harder." Keseth was quiet for a moment. "My people have a saying, the warrior who feels no fear is not brave. They are simply broken. True courage is acting despite the fear." Danny nodded slowly. "My people have a similar idea. We call it being too stubborn to quit." For the first time, Keseth made a sound that Danny realized was laughter, low and rumbling like distant thunder. "Rest now," the Vrethak said. "Tomorrow we fly into the dark, and whatever waits there, we face it together." Danny walked back to his bunk, lay down, and closed his eyes. Tomorrow, the impossible would begin again. He could not wait. The collective prison facility hung in the darkness like a metal tumor growing from the side of a dead asteroid. Danny stared at it through the shuttle's viewport and felt his stomach tighten. Guard towers, sensor arrays, defense turrets that could cut a ship in half with a single shot. "Last chance to turn back," Ollie said from the pilot's seat. His voice was steady, but his hands gripped the controls too tight. "No," Danny said. "Take us in." The shuttle descended toward the main docking port. Danny wore a borrowed uniform with fake credentials that Sick had created. Repair contractor, responding to a maintenance request for the water recycling systems. Simple, boring, exactly the kind of work that made security guards stop paying attention. "Shuttle identified," a voice crackled over the communication system. "Contractor Reyes, you are cleared for Base 7. Report to processing upon arrival." "Confirmed," Danny replied. "Thanks for having me." The shuttle landed smoothly. Danny grabbed his toolkit and headed for the airlock, pausing at the door to look back at his crew. Keseth and the 2 younger Vrethak were hidden in the cargo hold, waiting. Ollie would stay with the ship, ready for immediate departure. Sick monitored everything from a hidden terminal, feeding information through a small device in Danny's ear. "1 hour," Danny said. "If I'm not back by then, you leave without me." "No," Keseth's voice was firm. "We leave together or not at all." Danny wanted to argue but knew it would be pointless. "Then I guess I better not be late." He stepped through the airlock and into the enemy's home. The facility was exactly what he had expected. Industrial, cold, built for function rather than comfort. Guards in heavy armor walked the corridors with weapons ready. Security cameras watched every corner, but Danny moved through it all like he belonged there, toolkit in hand, eyes fixed straight ahead. Processing took 10 minutes. A board official checked his credentials, assigned him a security escort, and pointed him toward the maintenance section. Danny followed the escort through winding corridors, counting steps, noting door codes, memorizing everything. "Water recycling is on level 3, the escort said. "You've got 4 hours to complete the repair. Don't wander." "Understood." Danny kept his voice flat, professional. "I'll stay on task." The escort left him at the entrance to the maintenance section. Danny waited until the footsteps faded, then spoke quietly. "Siak, I'm in position. Which way to the power systems?" "2 levels down," Siak's voice whispered in his ear. "There is a service shaft at the end of the corridor. It bypasses the main security checkpoints." Danny moved quickly, keeping his head down whenever he passed cameras. The service shaft was narrow and dark, but he had spent half his life crawling through tight spaces. This was nothing new. He emerged in the lower levels, where the air was warmer and the hum of machinery was constant. The power systems were close now. He could feel them vibrating through the floor. "Guard station ahead," Siak warned. "2 officers, they will see you if you continue." Danny paused, thinking. Then he reached into his toolkit and pulled out a small device, an electromagnetic pulse emitter, very illegal, very useful. He aimed it at the ceiling lights and pressed the trigger. The lights exploded in a shower of sparks. The guards shouted and turned toward the disturbance. Danny slipped past them in the darkness, moving like a shadow until he reached the power control room. The door was locked, but locks were just another kind of machine. Danny had it open in 30 seconds. Inside, rows of control panels glowed with soft light. Energy readings, power distribution maps, system monitors. Everything he needed to bring the whole facility to its knees. "I'm at the main power controls," Danny reported, "ready to start the shutdown sequence." "Wait for my signal," Kesseth's voice cut in. "We are moving into position through the mining tunnels, 2 minutes." Danny's hands hovered over the controls. 2 minutes, he could do this. "Hey, you're not supposed to be here." Danny turned slowly. A guard stood in the doorway, weapon raised, young face, nervous eyes, probably his first month on the job. "Easy," Danny said, raising his hands. "I'm just a contractor, got lost looking for the recycling systems." "Don't move," the guard's voice shook. "I'm calling this in." Danny calculated options. He could try to talk his way out, he could fight, or he could do what he did best. "Before you do that," Danny said calmly, "you should know that panel behind you is showing a critical warning. Pressure buildup in the coolant lines. Another few minutes and this whole section could blow." The guard hesitated, glanced at the panel, and in that moment of distraction, Danny moved. He was not a fighter, not really, but he had learned a few things in the labor camps about how to disable someone quickly. He grabbed the guard's weapon arm, twisted, and brought his elbow down on the back of the man's neck. The guard dropped without a sound. "Sorry," Danny muttered, pulling the weapon from limp fingers. "Nothing personal." "Danny, we are in position." Kesseth's voice was tense with controlled violence. "Do it now." Danny turned to the power controls. His fingers danced across the panels, inputting commands that Siak had prepared. Override codes, shutdown sequences, cascade failures designed to look like accidents. The lights flickered. Alarms began to wail. And somewhere in the depths of the facility, 200 energy barriers died at the same moment. Danny ran. The corridors were chaos now. Guards shouting, emergency lights flashing, confusion everywhere. But beneath it all, Danny could hear something else. A sound that made his blood run cold and his heart soar at the same time. Vrethak roars, dozens of them, hundreds. The captives were awake. And they were angry. Danny sprinted toward the docking bay, following the path he had memorized. Guards rushed past him without a second glance, too focused on the disaster unfolding behind them. Sirens screamed. Walls shook. He was almost there when a hand closed around his throat and lifted him off the floor. The facility commander was a large man with dead eyes and a face that had never learned to smile. You did this. I don't know how, but you did this. Danny struggled, gasping for air. His vision began to blur. Then something massive and dark crashed through the wall behind them. Kesseth. The Vrethak moved like lightning, 4 arms reaching for the commander. The man had time to scream once before the darkness took him. Danny fell to the floor, coughing, dragging air into his lungs. Kesseth stood over him, covered in blood that was not its own. Can you walk? The Vrethak asked. Yeah, Danny pushed himself up. Let's go. They ran together toward the docking bay. Behind them, the prison facility tore itself apart. Freedom had finally come. And it was beautiful. The docking bay was a war zone. Freed Vrethak clashed with guards in every corner. Weapons fired. Bodies fell. The air was thick with smoke and the copper smell of blood from a dozen different species. Danny ran through it all with Kesseth at his side, dodging combat, ducking under wild shots. The shuttle was ahead, engines already warming. Ollie had kept his word. This way, Danny shouted over the chaos. They were 20 meters from safety when Kesseth suddenly stopped. Danny turned and saw it immediately. 3 young Vrethak, barely more than children, huddled against a wall as guards closed in on them. Go, Kesseth said. I will return. Kesseth. But the Vrethak was already moving, charging into the guards with a roar that shook the walls. Danny watched for a heartbeat, then cursed and followed. He could not help himself. The guards never stood a chance. Kesseth moved through them like a storm, claws flashing, and within seconds the 3 young ones were free. They clung to Kesseth's legs, trembling. Now we run, Kesseth said, gathering the children with 2 arms while the other 2 stayed ready for combat. Together. They ran. The shuttle's ramp was down, Ollie screaming at them from the cockpit. Other Vrethak were flooding onto captured ships throughout the bay, overwhelming crews taking control. 10 meters. 5. A plasma bolt caught Kesseth in the back. The Vrethak stumbled, nearly fell. The children scattered toward the shuttle with terrified cries. Danny spun and saw the shooter, a final guard, wounded but determined, lining up another shot. Danny did not think. He raised the weapon he had taken from the unconscious guard and fired. The shot went wide, but it was enough. The guard ducked, and in that moment Kesseth reached him. One clean strike ended it. Then Kesseth collapsed. No, Danny rushed to the Vrethak's side. The wound was bad, worse than bad. The plasma had burned deep into vital tissue, and dark blood poured out faster than even Vrethak healing could handle. Leave me, Kesseth's voice was weak. Get the children to safety. Shut up, Danny pressed his hands against the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. You're not dying here, I don't allow it. Danny, Kesseth's 4 eyes found his face, and the human saw something there he had never expected from a predator, peace. You have given my people freedom. You have given me something I thought impossible, purpose beyond survival, meaning beyond violence. Save the speeches, Danny's voice cracked. Help me get you to the ship. There is no time. Kesseth's breathing was shallow now. But you must know, my people will remember. They will tell stories of the human with gentle hands who saved us. The mender they will call you, and your kindness will live forever. Danny felt tears burning his eyes. He had not cried in 20 years, not since the camps. Please, I can fix this. I can fix anything. Some things cannot be fixed, Danny. Kesseth reached up with one massive hand and touched his face. The claws that could cut through steel were impossibly gentle. Some things can only be honored. The Vrethak's eyes began to close. Danny screamed, and Kesseth stopped breathing. Time seemed to freeze. The battle raged around them, but Danny felt nothing, heard nothing. He held the body of the first being who had ever truly trusted him and wept like a child. Hands touched his shoulders, strong hands, Vrethak hands. He looked up through blurred vision and saw them gathered around, dozens of freed captives forming a circle of protection while the battle continued beyond. They looked at him with something that transcended species: recognition, gratitude, reverence. "Mender," one of them said softly, "we must go, but we will not leave Kesseth. Our warriors carry our fallen." They lifted Kesseth's body with honor, and Danny somehow found the strength to stand, to walk, to board the shuttle as it launched into space amid a fleet of stolen ships. 6 months later, Danny stood on a world he never thought he would see. Morrofor, the Vrethak homeworld. The gravity pulled at his bones. The atmosphere burned slightly with each breath. But he had adapted, the way humans always adapted, because that was what his species did. The Vrethak had built a sanctuary here, in a valley protected from the worst of their planet's dangers. 200 freed souls, rebuilding a culture that had nearly been destroyed. And Danny Reyes had become something he never expected. A legend. They came to him from across the settlement, these creatures that the galaxy feared. They came with broken machines and damaged tools, and Danny fixed them. He taught the young ones how to repair instead of destroy. He showed them that strength came in many forms. A small Vrethak, one of the children from the docking bay, worked beside him now. Her name was Keth, which meant one who learns. She had chosen to study under the Mender rather than train as a warrior. "Danny," she said, holding up a repaired engine component, "I fixed it like you showed me." Danny examined the work, clean, precise, perfect. "You did good, kid," he said, "real good." Keth's eyes brightened with pride. She ran off to show the others, and Danny watched her go with something warm spreading through his chest. In the distance, a monument rose against the red sky. A statue of Kesseth, carved from black stone, standing guard over the valley. At its base, a plaque bore words in both Vrethak and human languages. It read, "Here began freedom. Here a human taught us that healing is also strength. In memory of Kesseth, who endured, and Danny Reyes, who mended what was broken." Danny visited the monument every evening. Tonight, he stood before it as the alien sun set behind the mountains. "We're doing okay," he told the stone figure. "The kids are learning fast, the settlement is growing, nobody's tried to attack us in months." He paused. "I think you'd be proud." The wind whispered through the valley, carrying sounds of the living community beyond. Laughter, work, hope. Danny smiled and turned away from the monument. There was work to be done, machines to fix, and a whole species learning that the most powerful force in the universe was not violence or fear. It was simply being willing to help.